Would you like me in the middle, or would you like... whatever. I was on the end of the script. Whatever you guys...
It's a room.
are comfortable.
But the seat is warm, so you want to sit.
Men and women... Whoa. This isn't very loud. Men and women of Cinema Wasteland, please welcome Allan, Kolman, and Lynn Lowry. The stars of They Came From Within, also known as Shivers. Right now, of course, David Cronenberg is considered an auteur, and I think he defines the concept of an auteur. But this was his very first film, and no one's an auteur yet before they've made a movie. So they're here to tell you about the Shivers experience, and we'll touch on some other things as well. So,
you got a short table.
I don't think he needs it.
I don't think I need it.
There you go.
Okay. So,
You got a loud voice, Cal.
I do have a loud voice.
I
So,
have a loud voice too,
Yes.
so, whatever.
we like the microphones if we can, but, so, how did you both come to be involved in this project?
May I test? Testing?
Yes, there you go.
Very good. Okay. Lynn, would you like to go first, or? Okay. How do we come to be involved?
In this project, yes.
Okay. Okay, well, how much time do we have here?
Approximately a maximum of
Okay.
45 minutes.
Okay. Well, I was living in Montreal. I'm Canadian, and I was living in Montreal at the time, and I came to move to Toronto. And I had just come off a wonderful picture called The Apprenticeship of Diddy Kravitz, starring Richard Dreyfuss and Randy Quaid. And I had some heat attached to me. And Susan Petri, who, the dear late Susan Petri, who plays my wife, was a friend, and she mentioned, oh, David Cronenberg is doing this picture. And so I called up David. People still listed their phone numbers in those days in the white pages. The white pages? So it's directory, phone directory. And so David was very receptive, knowing my work from Diddy Kravitz. Ah yes, the young Leonard Cohen was how he welcomed me. And he couldn't have been more gracious. And so I read for David, and a subsequent interview, audition, followed through with Ivan Reitman. And I was on board. And it was great. I was as easy as could be. Lynn, if you'd like.
All right, so yes. Hello.
Hello.
So Ivan Reitman came to New York and he took me to lunch and we talked about doing this film. And I said, okay. That's pretty much it.
So, when you first looked at the script or heard about the concept, it's a pretty wild, out there concept.
I gotta stop you if I may.
Sure.
When you say first looking at the script,
Yes.
the script titled page, Orgy of the Blood Parasites. Oh yes. So if that doesn't get something moving here, you knew you were in for something innovative, esoteric perhaps, and quirky. You knew it was a cerebral feast, or at least that's how I took to it.
Well, so when you say cerebral feast, did it on paper seem unfilmable, or could you picture it as you were reading it? Because it's a pretty wild concept.
I had no reason to, I hadn't fully comprehended David's first two pictures, Crimes of the Future and Stereo,
Yes.
but I knew there was an imagination at work. So I had no disbelief that, in fact, what was on the written page could be achieved and could be realized.
The Canadian tax shelter era created a lot of exploitation type pictures. Do you want to explain what that era was for people who might not be familiar with what that was?
Well, in one word, I could say greed. It had to do with the fact that the doors were opening up, people were investing, money was being thrown at potential filmmakers, and there was a lot of schlock that was being done because the Pandora's box had been opened, and they were looking to create a Canadian film industry, which pretty much at that time was a fledgling industry. And so a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon, and there was not a whole lot of quality control.
But so,
I'm sorry, did I answer your question, Art?
sort of, yeah. I mean, yeah, you injected like a lot of sort of a value opinion assignment to the product that came from that era. But like the tax shelter era was basically people could get like an 100% tax write-off in investing in film. So you had a lot of people who couldn't care less about cinema, just throwing money at product. And of course, like the easiest way to make money traditionally has been with some type of exploitation type picture, not necessarily meaning that a movie's bad. Certainly a lot of high art comes from exploitation film movements, like Ganja and Hess came from the blaxploitation film movement, for example. And someone like David Cronenberg, a brilliant who would become an auteur of cinema, you know, he knew he could get a horror movie into theaters, and so that's where he, you know, directed his imagination at that time.
To fully comprehend your question, there were not a whole lot of overseers or oversight.
And there hadn't really been much of a Canadian film industry. You had some French-Canadian art house fare, and that was about it. That was like the main product coming from Canada around that time.
Pretty much so. I mean, the National Film Board, which did almost exclusively documentaries, had put Canada on the map. And so there were brief forays into theatrical releases, Duddy Kravitz being one of them, Duddy Kravitz being the most critically acclaimed movie of its time at the time. And I was fortunate in 1 year to be involved in the most critically acclaimed as well as its most controversial. I mean, go figure.
David Cronenberg also was prone, particularly in the early part of his career, to making controversial statements. And one of his famous quotes from early in his career was, he said this in a Canadian TV documentary. I'm going to try to get this verbatim. He said, "An artist has no social responsibility whatsoever." So it's an extremely provocative statement. What do you make of that statement? That an artist bears no social responsibility whatsoever.
That's somewhat elusive, because if we put the word Canadian artist has no social responsibility, it becomes a different animal, because it almost behooves, I can't disagree with what you're saying, but the Canadian artist, Canadian actor in this case, walked a very fine line, because one dare not be quite so outspoken. And if you were outspoken, or if you didn't like the deal that was being offered to you as an actor, well, just move aside and somebody else will take your place. So one had to be watchful of the political situation and the artistic situation, and barely had the initiative or the courage to be so outspoken. So if we were to take that comment and run it universally, I think there's greater truth to that.
Wow. Very well said.
Very well spoken. Well said answer. So both of you in this movie, these are very physical performances. This is a cerebral film, but both of you have a lot of physicality involved in your performances. How did you prepare for that?
Lynn, would you like to say something?
Okay. I have no idea what they were talking about. But anyway, what the fuck, right? They just put a parasite in my mouth and I was there. No, we had to, it was very physical. I mean, I had a car crash with, what's his name, and all kinds of, I got raped, or tried to get raped, and I stabbed David in the shoulder because he was, standing in for the guy, and, we just kind of I was just at that point in my career was just like, yeah, okay, it looks like an interesting script, I didn't really understand any of the, underneath what it meant or anything like that, and I still really don't. So, I just had a parasite in my mouth. That's all I can say.
So I've tried to ask this question to people before, and it does. What the hell was going on in the 70s where such a high percent of movies had rape content or some type of rape-like themes? Like, it seems like, in your movies alone, in the early 70s, between the father character raping you and the crazies,
Right.
what was going on in that time period that cinema was so rape-heavy, do you think? Because it's really a product of the 70s. There's not as much rape in cinema before or after. Something was going on in the 70s.
I can't speak to that.
I have no idea.
Well,
But to answer your question, if I may, Art,
yes.
I welcome physicality as an actor. I welcome it and I embrace it, and that's part of the package. And most of my performance is rather minimalistic with regard to dialogue, so it behooved me that the body be articulate and outspoken, whether I'm vomiting in the bathtub or whether I'm on the balcony, taking some sort of rather suggestive balletic moves and then doing a heave-ho. So that was something that rather tickled my fancy, if you will. The ability to kind of comprehend and put it into some sort of physicality and let that be poetry for me.
Wow.
So, I just want you all to know that I've been acting for 60 years. And thank you.
Yes.
And I, did a lot of theater, and I'm a credible actor, know how to do Shakespeare, all that stuff. But in this movie, my iconic moment is when I come up out of that swimming pool in that see-through shirt, and that's become the thing that everybody wants to get and see and all that. So,
And touch.
and then I give the parasite to the doctor and all that. And so, that was great fun for me. So, but seriously, I am a serious actor and do know all that stuff. So, all that shit. Just wanted you to know that.
Well, you had three characters that were very similar in some respects between the crazies, I Drink Your Blood, and They Came From Within. How did you manage to, given those similarities, still keep these as three distinct characters?
We heard
I
that.
hate him. I have no idea.
But you're incredible in these movies.
I know,
Yeah. You still hate me after
thank you so
saying you're
much.
incredible,
I was 22 and I just kind of knew how to be crazy. So.
If I can just jump in here and say,
Jump
even though Lynn underplays her understanding of what was going on in the script, the performance is beautiful.
Absolutely.
And that is the job of an actor, to create an illusion, to move you emotionally, spiritually, whatever. And Lynn, thank you, because that's accomplished 100%.
That's so sweet. I paid him to say that.
Now, didn't you all come into contact with some of the actual people living in that area when you were in makeup, etc., and freaked some of them out? Did you have some run-ins with?
I had in the complex we were in, when the thing comes out of my mouth, I was all covered in blood and all that stuff, and I went into the bathroom, and these other people were living in the complex, and they these two old women came in, and they were I was standing there with blood all over me and everything, and they just said, "Oh, are you doing that horror film?" So I said, "Yeah."
And like you have been acting for 60 years, David Cronenberg is a rare director that worked in 6 different decades. He has a new movie opening on the 18th in New York and LA and the 25th nationwide. So watch for the new David Cronenberg movie,
wow.
The Shrouds, coming out this very month.
Nice.
But it is getting to be that time in the evening where people want to have dinner and or engage in other festivities. Do people have questions for these two esteemed cast members of Shivers? I'm sure you do, Daniel. Just go ahead.
What inspired each of you to become an actor or an actress in the first place?
What was the question? I'm
What
sorry.
inspired you to become an actor?
What inspired each of you to become an actor in the first place?
Well, I was very, very shy as a child. I was raised in Cahokia, Illinois, and we didn't even know who Shakespeare or anything was. And I found that when I got up one day and did my report on the spider, that everyone said, "Ooh, we love your report on the spider. You know, do our bug." And I thought, I got attention, I got, love, and I thought, yeah, let's do it.
I just took to it. I would perform at my parents' parties, grandparents, congregations, that sort of thing. And it was just rather innate, intuitive. And so I went on through the years just to be spontaneous about it, never really giving it a whole lot of thought. It just was a natural flow. And I would go to university and go into theater arts. I was thankful enough and grateful enough to get a nice scholarship to Yale School of Drama. So it was kind of like in the cards for me. I didn't have to think twice about it.
Other questions? Yeah.
Anything either of you, or hopefully both of you, would like to share about having worked with Barbara Steele?
I have nothing to say. Barbara and I didn't have any scenes together, nor did Lynn and I have any scenes together. I am greatly respectful of Barbara. She's a dear, sweet woman, but it's all in the celluloid. I mean, she's a mistress of what she does.
So Barbara and I drank brandy together at the pool because we were cold and had blankets and drank brandy, and then we got in the pool. And that's the only scene I had with Barbara. But she's very sweet, and I've had a couple of shows with her, and it's been, she's been great. So yeah, but just brandy.
Other questions?
Come on.
I'll ask more if you
No
don't have any
questions?
questions.
Really?
Any curiosities about anything?
I have sort of a strange
Please.
thing in the back of my head here. It's like, just working on this script and working together, did you find, and presumably you had families that were engaged with you at the time, I don't know if you were married or not, but sort of dealing with...
Speak up a little louder.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm wondering, I'll just try to sum it up. Was there any sort of archetypally driven awareness, that came from working on this film that you took into films in the future? Like self-realization, and I don't know. It's a bit of an esoteric question, and I apologize.
I'm
Did
not.
you learn more about yourself from doing this film?
I have to believe and imagine that we take everything with us. I cannot spotlight or pinpoint what this particular experience and adventure created within me. But what is interesting in this Q&A and this evening is that we're talking about an adventure. We're talking about a period of time that goes back 50 years. So it's also about memory. It's also about recollection in terms of what galvanizes us and what we have the ability to hold on to and to piggyback on your question, that which impacts upon us. So perhaps that's a rounded answer to your question.
Thank you.
The sum part of everything, yes?
Yeah.
I have a question for Lynn. Lynn,
Yes.
you've been very prolific in the last few years.
I have, really?
Lots of movies, lots of great stuff. Anything that you're particularly excited about that has just come out or that is coming out?
Oh, yes. Okay, well, I have Fang, which is on Amazon Prime, where I play a mother with Parkinson's who's driving her son mad to the point where he thinks he's literally becoming a rat.
Oh, wow.
And I have a comedy horror on Tubi called The Halloween Feast, where I play a housewife who has a little bit of a breakdown and like kills 8 people. So, but you know, but I look pretty when I do it.
And one of the new movies starring Lynn Lowry is screening here tonight, isn't that right?
Yes, Torture the Flesh. So yes, that's a really great film, and you know, when I get, well, I don't want to give it away, so you know, yes. So watch it. It's at 9:30, I think. So.
It is playing here tonight. One of the, I'm not trying to be a sycophant, but one of the amazing things about Cinema Wasteland is not only do we celebrate cinema of the past, but he also screens new independent films. So definitely check out some of the new features, including this one that Lynn is in, screening here tonight. Other questions?
How many, did you all see the film tonight? Have you, how many of you have seen the film?
Shivers?
Yes. Oh, so you've all seen my tits. How many of you have not seen the film?
It's on your table.
Oh, yeah, come by my table if you haven't seen them, because they're right there.
They're perfect.
This question's for Allan. Allan, lasting memories of the late, great Susan Petri. I just found out earlier this year that we lost her. She passed away, and what was it to work? How can you tell the audience and myself, how was it to work with her?
Well, as Art pointed out and mentioned, Susan, her reputation was founded on playing sexy sex kittens, if you will. So this was a new outing for her, and she went as far as to chopping off her hair to create the domesticity of a housewife. But she was great to work with. We had a great connection, and I couldn't have wished for anything more. But here's the thing, you know, with regard to the whole film, I believe we were all successful in checking our egos at the door, okay? Which allowed us to get on with something that, oh, Mickey and Judy, if that metaphor means anything to you, it's like, let's put on a show. Let's put on a show. We didn't really know what we were up for, what we were in for, but damn as hell, you know, we were going for it. And so there was a sense of excitement. Whether we understood it or not, there was a sense of excitement about the project.
Yeah, if you go back and look at Variety magazine from 1975, you can find, with some exceptions like Jaws, for example, but with most weeks, whatever was #1 at the box office is a forgotten film, but no one has forgotten Shivers.
Yes.
You know, it stood the test of time, and it's a movie that is still extremely powerful. And the two of you are a big part of that.
Yes.
Your performances are magnificent. So
Yeah.
it is definitely a movie that is good. Any other questions? Yeah.
Working with David Cronenberg, could you tell that he was going to become this great director?
You want to handle that?
No. I mean, he was great. He was young. It was his first film. He wrote this really weird script, which I don't even think I read, except for my parts. But and he, you know, was just wanted to make something happen that was special and would be remembered. So, but you know, I had no idea that he would be who he became.
I'd have to echo the no, but for the reason it was Canadian, okay? And I don't mean any disrespect, but Canada as a country was not taking care of its artistry, was not furthering its artistry, and so there was no reason to believe that David wasn't anything other than a flash in the pan. Thankfully, I was proven wrong over and over and over again.
But it's still right.
Perhaps,
Your feeling.
my feeling, and perhaps the same features apply in terms of Canada not taking care of its own artistry. Canada is a bit of a, how can I put it, a neutered country. I mean, we've got the UK influence, we've got the American influence, and I feel that Canada is still struggling for an identity, unfortunately. But the fact that they're flexing their muscles now, politically speaking, bravo, you know, I mean, this is quite extraordinary for them to be quite so outspoken and verbal and in your face. That's really quite extraordinary. There's another question back there here.
As an actor, this is obvious to both of you. Do you have a goal or a desire to not just make films, but make films that people will be watching many, many years later to be remembered? Or is that something in the moment that you're not even thinking about, but now in hindsight?
Well, it's wonderful. It's always wonderful to leave a mark, isn't it? And I walked away from the industry some 12 years ago because I had lost my enthusiasm, okay? And, but I do feel, looking at my history, that there are a few films here and there, and some television shows as well, that speak very eloquently to your question, where in fact somebody can grab hold of that and have a rather keen pursuit and understanding of what I do, of what I attempt to do. Yeah, anything?
Well, you know, I came from a theater background. I wanted to do Shakespeare and, you know, great classics. So when I got this opportunity, so I Drink Your Blood, I got The Crazies, I got Shivers. So all just like a mad accident to have that all happen. But, and at the moment, no, I had no idea that you all would be here, sitting here right now, 50 years later, watching this movie. Never occurred to me. I thought, you know, I'll just do this as like a stepping stone to me winning the Academy Award, right? So, but I have to tell you, it's a thrill to have all of you here and watching the movie 50 years later. It means a great deal to me, and I really, really, really love all of you for doing that.
Great.
So thank you.
Yes,
Anything else before we wrap up? They will be here for the, yes.
Do you have advice to give to people going into the industry or who want to follow in your footsteps in some way?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It's a hard life. It's a hard life. And if you can find something else that rings your bell, I would encourage someone to go there. If you must have this, then you have to understand what you're partaking in. And I'm getting old for Clint. I would only say, didn't you know?
Now I do.
Okay. It's demanding. Priorities are made. I wish I could be a little more expressive what I'm trying to express here. But if you're going for it, put your heart into it. And it's a lot of luck, a lot of fortune has to come your way. Again, just not an easy lifestyle. Compromises are made along the way. And if you can live that kind of a life, well, then albeit, go for it. But it's demanding. It's demanding on relationships, the wife, the children. Can I put bread on the table? And it also impacts upon the ego, especially as a man. You know, you're the head of the family, and so you've got to be a provider. So it's hopelessly demanding.
Are you done?
Yeah.
So my advice is to take acting classes, get into theater work, learn how to be an artist, and you know, and hopefully someone will see you and you will go on beyond that and you will get work. just to be the best that you can be, and that's all I ever thought about. I'm just gonna act and do what I can, and I did a lot of theater, for free in New York, and and I'm where I am now. But the films that you all love right now are films that I did in the 70s, and so that whole interim up to now, I mean, I've been working constantly for the last 20 years. But there was a period where, no one knew who I was, or I didn't know if you knew who I was. And so I didn't know how to pursue work. So it's a hard, hard business. If it's something you love and you feel you're an entertainer at heart and you really want to give to an audience in whatever way, then do it. Otherwise, find something else to do.
I think to a great degree we're on the same page here. If you must do it, underscored, italicized, if you must do it, then you do it. But you've got to be aware of the pitfalls along the way. If you can find something, perhaps doesn't resonate as fully as the acting career, consider it. Consider it in terms of giving yourself a better, gracious lifestyle where you don't have to pin your tail between your legs. It's sorry to be quite so graphic about that, but it's hopelessly demanding. So you must be up for that. You must be up for that.
Well, we all thank you both for pursuing this line, and please visit them at their tables tomorrow. And please, it's no secret,
I have parasites.
there are parasites that you must consider purchasing at Lynn Lowry's table. They're very cool. And please, it's no secret, if you've been to the other Q&As this weekend, it's no secret that the promoter of this show, he's having some health problems. Please congratulate him on 25 years of Cinema Wasteland. That is not, there's no small feat. And we need to congratulate him on that milestone and wish him well on his health issues. And have fun tonight. Please remember, what happens at Wasteland stays at Wasteland. Thank you.
Yes, I want to know about room parties. Hit me up.
Are you having one?
Well, no, I want to know if you're having one.
Come to yours.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you very much.
Please take the first photo commemorating.
Great Q&A. Great Q&A.